is the purpose of religion? Is it to follow rules? Is it to do certain things and to avoid others? What is the purpose of religion? In the Islamic tradition, there were different answers to that question. But the answer of the Sufis, who represented one of the greatest and most predominant traditions of Islam throughout the centuries, was that the purpose of religion is human perfection. The messengers were sent, the prophets were sent, in order to themselves embody human perfection and to radiate that to others. And the messages that they left, the guidance that they gave, was in order that we become like them. The word Christian originally meant to be like Christ, to imitate Christ. In fact, that's still what it means. So we should try to be like Christ and to be like Moses and be like the Prophet Mohammad. We believe that all of these are the embodiment of human perfection. I think one of the greatest examples of winning over enemies is the conquest of Mecca. Again, I highly suggest that you look at Martin Ling's book, Mohammad, his life based on earlier sources, a beautiful treatment of his life. But when Muhammad finally conquered Mecca, his own city, to him the most beloved city of all, the city that he had been driven out of and forced to migrate from, when almost 2 decades after the beginning of his prophecy, he comes back to Mecca. Now he is powerful. Now he has great following. And in fact, as they begin to go into Mecca with an army the size of which the Arabs had probably never seen in history, at one point they find a wild dog who has had a litter of pups on the road. And the road into Mecca is very difficult, especially the road which he took. And he put a guard by the dog. And he made the whole army pass to the side of it, and at a distance so that the dog not be frightened. And as this army approached Mecca, the Meccans, of course, had opposed the Prophet in the strongest way. Then he approached the city, and he is standing by the chieftain of pagan Mecca, whose name was Abu Sufyan. He's very well known in the biography of the Prophet. And again, Abu Sufyan is an example of a person whose heart the Prophet wanted to win. So he always entreated Abu Sufyan. He called him to Islam. And at this point, as the army is going by, the Prophet is standing by Abu Sufyan. And Abu Sufyan is amazed to see how this orphan of Quraysh has become so powerful. And then one of the chieftains of the tribe of Medina, whose name is Sa'ad, he comes up and he sees Abu Sufyan, whom he's fought in battles, many battles, and he says to him, "Woe to you! This is the day of vengeance." He has the banner. He says, "This is the day of vengeance." And so the Prophet Muhammad goes to him and takes the banner away from him and gives it to his son. And he says, "No, this is the day of mercy. This is the day that mercy will be shown." In a sea of chaos, a tribal world of people that were at each other's throats. And he was able, remarkably, during his first years, to create an island of stability in that sea of chaos. That island of stability being his little community in Medina. And this community was greatly threatened. It was threatened to the point that no one would have believed it could survive. But he created that little island of stability, and then he expanded that island. And he expanded that island until it took up the whole sea. This was indeed the great accomplishment that he saw at the end of his life. That he had brought peace and stability, he'd brought harmony, he'd brought understanding to the Arabian people. He'd in fact changed even the meaning of Arab. The meaning of Arab before him is simply a linguistic term. But now it became, something new, something different. And one of the greatest qualities that he had that enabled him to do that was the fact that he won people's hearts.
What can Muhammad mean to a Christian, right? I mean, in some ways, this is the $50,000 question. Or I remember learning that expression, I think back in the 60s when I was growing up, for if you count for inflation, it's like $500 million question now, something like that, right? That's probably what you're all wondering. Now, I'm hoping you've gotten some inkling about that from what I've said so far. I hope also you realize that there are things about these kinds of relationships that we have in our lives, whether they're with living people in our own family or our friends, our religious leaders, our memories of great spiritual heroes of the past, and of course, ultimately, the relationship that informs all other relationships, our relationship with God. There are aspects of those experiences that lie at the core of the meaningfulness of those experiences, but that are really mysterious to us, and that it's ultimately impossible to convey in words. But I'll try to convey some words about this so you can get a sense of where I am and think about your own orientation, particularly after you read, and you all must do it if you haven't, right? Martin Lings's Mohammad, a story based on the earliest sources. This is part of an ayah in the Quran, part of a verse from the Quran, which I've actually plucked here out of that hilya. أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَى رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. And it means, we have sent you, and here God is speaking in the first person plural in the Quran, that's the we, the divine we, the we of exalted status. We have sent you, Muhammad, only as a mercy to the universe. And again, a connection with the beautiful talk that we were just treated to. It's a very powerful notion for Muslims. I've taken my cue for how to understand Muhammad in my own life from my Muslim friends, and that comes in a sense out of, there's a certain logic to it. I didn't know the logic to it while I was doing it, or as I do it, I'm not conscious of it, but the logic is, you tend to fall in love with the things your friends love, or the people. You tend to fall in love with the things or the people that your friends love. Particularly if you realize that what makes that very thing which makes your friend such an extraordinary human being is this particular being. It's usually another being. I know I said thing, but really, it's another being. This is a verse that speaks so powerfully to Muslims that someone like Dr. Abdullah will make it the centerpiece in some ways and the conclusion of his talk. And I'm grateful for Muslim friends like him and many others who have taught me how meaningful this understanding of the Prophet Muhammad can be in my own life. What can Muhammad mean for a Christian? What can he be for a Christian? Well, he can be a beautiful exemplar, as the Quran describes him. Uswa hasana. A beautiful exemplar of what it means to have taqwa, or God consciousness. This is a key and seminal virtue in the Quran, maybe even one of the greatest Quranic virtues. I think Christians can see the Prophet Muhammad as a beautiful exemplar, someone who teaches us, not just the Ummah, but those outside of the Ummah, about God consciousness. And then one who teaches us about a life of deep faith, that life that he lived, and a life of deep respect and compassion for all creation, especially one's fellow human beings. I wanted to close this evening by quoting a contemporary follower of Muhammad, none other than Mr. Fethullah Gulen, known to some as Khaja Effendi, a title of respect and esteem. And he has this to say in another book. You know, we could make your list very, very long. The book entitled Muhammad, the Messenger of God, the following. The Prophet Muhammad is like a spring of pure water in the heart of a desert, a source of light in an all-enveloping darkness. Whoever appeals to this spring can take as much water as needed to quench their thirst, to become purified of all their sins, and to become illumined with the light of belief. Mercy was like a magic key in his hands, for with it he opened hearts, he won hearts. This is the connection with the theme. That we're so hardened and rusty, hearts like those of Abu Sufyan and many others who came to Islam after being the Prophet's sworn enemies. Opened hearts that were so hardened and rusty that no one thought they could be opened. But he did even more. He lit a torch of belief in them. Thank you very much.
You are the mine of loyalty in the eyes of the community. You are the mirror of purity at the crossroad of mercy. You are the ray of light in darkness and uncertainty. You are Ahmad, Mahmud, Mohammad, Mustafa. You are the full moon of the night, the sun at its peak. In divine words, you are Yasin Taha, guide to salvation, transcendent generosity. You are Ahmad, Mahmud, Muhammad, Mustafa.
Our Sufi musicians, as well as our great keynote speakers, have touched our hearts and minds tonight, and they have filled our hearts and minds with the light of God Almighty. My special thanks to our Sufi musicians, as well as our great speakers. Thank you very much on behalf of Niagara Foundation. Members, friends, and all the audience.
Tonight, for me, was like learning more ways in which Muslim people embody the beauty of God. And I enjoyed both the lectures very much. I thought they were very good. And I appreciate the hospitality and the warmth of the people at the events that I've been to.
For me, the beauty of Islam with the music and the recitation of the Holy Word is very compelling, and that draws me in a way that reading books or talking about it doesn't. So I very much appreciate the musical contributions.
I didn't know what to expect, actually, and it turned out to be really wonderful. I learned a lot because I didn't know much.
I thought it was really good. I liked both speakers. They had two totally different ways of speaking, but they were both very informative, and I really enjoyed it. Positive experience all the way around.
I am a new convert, so I was very open, minded to hearing everything, and it was very enlightening. There's a lot of things, obviously, that I've been researching myself before I actually converted, and then sitting down and watching other people talk about it and just confirm my belief, obviously.
This is really our first performance where we've done within a crowd of this nature, and it was very enlightening for us, and at the same time, and we're humble to do it, and I obviously didn't get to see the speakers. We were out there practicing, but from what I heard from everybody else too, I talked to a couple of people. They really enjoyed it, and the evening I think went well by from everyone's smiles on their face and everything. So
I think it went very well with the occasion of the birth of the Prophet, peace be upon him, and our gift to your audience of sharing some music and some poetry. I think that brought out a nicely balanced program.
It was just fabulous. We had the most blessed time, and we thank everybody here. We love all of our friends, and of course Mohammad. Bless the Lord. It was more inspiring than I could have imagined.
It was quite soothing and quite spiritual. It just touched my heart.
And this is the first time I remember having a major event about the Prophet in a public setting like this in Chicago. And I think it's wonderful because usually programs about the Prophet are usually open only for Muslims in small little communities and mosques and centers. And this was at the Chicago Cultural Center, which is a very important venue for these programs. They have all kinds of artistic, cultural events. So to have a program about the Prophet in the Chicago Cultural Center in downtown Chicago is a major, major achievement. So I was very happy that it was happening here. And then after the program, during the program, I really liked the diversity of the agenda, which was Quranic recitation, video, some music, and of course the presentations, and they're all very good.
But I didn't have an in-depth knowledge, and now I feel like I have a better starting point, and I would like to learn more, and that's another reason why I felt like particularly the first speaker needed to talk longer and have something else. I just needed more information. I feel like I need more information, which is a good thing. So that means I want to go out and find out more.
This was my very first experience with this type of program. The first time I've really learned anything about the Prophet Muhammad at all. I thought I had a little bit of knowledge, and I realized I really didn't. So it was very, very informative. I'm glad I came.
It helps me understand quite a bit more than I did. I mean, I have a good idea of world religions, but I'm not that well informed. So, yeah, the more dialogue we can have, the better. The world today, with fundamentalist strong feelings on every side, there needs to be a lot of dialogue.
I really appreciate it. I liked hearing Dr. Abdullah. Is that his name? He was wonderful. I thought it was an explanation that I was totally unfamiliar with Muhammad, and everything that he said was new to me. And it was said in a way that made me receptive to it. And then I liked Scott Alexander because I'm a Christian also, and the things that he said are the exact questions that Christians have.
Other than excellent, can you find a word better than that? I think it was really a wonderful combination of intellectual stimulation, of spiritual motivation and direction, and artistic expression. It was a very, very good blend. We need more of this, for sure. And right from the beginning, when we received the invitation in the mail, I knew this was going to be a great event. And then right up to the end, it was fantastic. I really enjoyed myself.
Oh, it was a great presentation. The two speakers were great. I learned a lot from both of them. The music was awesome. It was really touching. And overall, it's very nice to see that we can organize something that well.
Most importantly, I was really touched by how humble Dr. Armstrong was, and I think we need to have more such programs because it really reaches out and bridges the gaps between faiths, and I would definitely love to come to something like this in the future, inshallah.
It helped me to get a better understanding of Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, as well as the meeting more faces of Islam, which helps, of course, to open hearts and to be able to understand and dialogue and, converse with children of God, which we all are.